If you're watching this video and you're thinking, I'm doing everything right for my health and I still feel lousy, maybe you're experiencing brain fog, you have anxiety, your mood is low, you're experiencing fatigue despite exercise and what you feel is a dialed in diet. You still get that lingering sense that something isn't quite right with your body, but you can't figure out why. This is something that I hear all the time when new clients come into my practice. And this is what I want to talk to you about today, why this happens. Even when it seems like all of those foundations of health are already in place. If you're new here, hi, my name is Dr. Sarah. I have been practicing naturopathic and functional medicine for almost 20 years. I specialize in essential oils, mental health, brain health, women's health, and gut health. And I want to share with you today something I constantly see in my clinic. What happens and why people come to me saying, I'm doing everything right, Dr. Sarah, but I still feel stuck. Now, most of the people that I work with are not starting from scratch. They are health connoisseurs. They're already eating better. They're moving their bodies consistently. They're working on their stress. Sometimes they're even doing breath work, supplements, mindfulness, and even using essential oils. So they have that effort to want to improve their health. All of that is already there. And it does help them, but only to a certain point. Then things will plateau. And that's when they usually come to me. They feel somewhat defeated. They wonder, what am I missing? Can you relate? So, more often than not, it's not what they're missing. It's about how everything is interacting and if we've dug a little bit deeper and personalized it. When I think about brain health coming from a functional naturopathic medicine perspective, I usually start with a few core inputs. I look at nutrition because it provides the building blocks for neurotransmitters or brain signaling patterns, energy production, inflammation balance, and overall brain function. I think of movement because it supports circulation to the brain and body. It helps with neuroplasticity. It helps with mood regulation. It helps with stress resilience. Mindset, or what you believe in your perceptions and thought patterns, and how they directly influence your stress physiology, hormones, and immune signaling. And I also look at sensory input, especially smell. I am an essential oils expert after all. And this is actually one of the most direct pathways to the brain, and it can shift nervous system state very quickly, as well as mood, as well as whole body physiology. So these are some of the key core foundations. And what I want to emphasize is they all work together, they are not independent, and they interact with everything else that is happening in the body. And this is where things start to shift when you change your viewpoint on health, when you look at how everything interacts. Because once you stop looking at health into these separate categories of diet here, stress there, hormones over here, you start to see something else. You start to see that the brain is not an isolated organ and the body's organs don't act separately from one another. They're all in constant communication, and this network is impacting each other and the rest of the body. And that communication is happening through multiple systems all at the same time. So, for example, the gut is constantly sending signals to the brain through neural, immune, and chemical pathways. Hormones are continuously influencing mood, cognition, energy, and emotional regulation. Inflammation and blood sugar shifts in those are shaping how the brain functions and how the body feels on a moment to moment basis. Even sleep quality feeds back to how the brain handles stress for the next day. It works the other way too. So your thoughts, your perceptions, and your emotional states also influence your digestion, your immune activity, and your hormone balance. So when someone says I have brain fog or any other symptoms or I don't feel like myself, I'm not just looking at the organ affected. I'm not just looking at the brain, say in the case for brain fatigue. I think of it as a whole system signal. And this is why people can be doing so many things right and still feel stuck. Because if they're only focusing on one part of the system that is under strain, they're not focusing on the whole other network where it can be tilted and feeling off balance. We have to balance everything. And one of the clearest relationships with this is when we look at people who might be having cardiovascular issues or brain issues. They're too interconnected. The heart and the brain are continuous communication through autonomic nervous system influences. So emotional states actually influence your heart rhythm patterns, as does stress. And those patterns and feedback signals go back to the brain, affecting your mood, your clarity, your stress resilience. So what we're talking about here is how regulation impacts our brain, our heart, and our overall health. And this is where it's not just about emotional regulation, but we're also talking about physiological regulation. And this is where relationships come in as well, because human connection is a missing piece that often gets ignored and it influences the entire system. If we think about it, supportive connection has been shown to help regulate stress physiology, lower hormone output from chronic stress, so lower cortisol levels, and improve nervous system stability. So, whereas chronic stress can cause emotional disconnection, it can cause isolation and increase physiological load both to the brain and heart systems, healthy relationships can actually feed and fuel the body in a really wonderfully connected way. So we can't separate emotional health from physical health or even relationship health. They're all deeply intertwined. Say all of this is all in place. Good relationships, nutrition, movement, heart, brain, emotions, sensory stimuli, and even looking at how our mindset is. Things like mitochondrial function, detoxification capacity, sleep architecture, circadian rhythm, chronic stress, unresolved emotional patterns stored in the body due to trauma. All of these factors are interacting and interfering and influencing the foundations of health and how those are being inputted into your body. So you can still feel like you're doing everything right, but if we don't look at the underlying physiology as well as the interconnections, we are not actually going to feel at our best because we're dealing with isolated symptoms and just placing them in categories versus looking at how they're all connected. And this is why I love essential oils and why I focus on them so much in my practice. They play a broader role than most people realize because they're not just scent and they're not just about relaxation and they're not even just about shifting emotions. They interact directly with the olfactory system, which has a direct connection to the limbic system and hypothalamus. So this is where your emotions and memory centers of the brain are located. And they also influence deeper autonomic neuroendocrine regulation pathways. So they're influencing your nervous system and your hormones at the same time. When you inhale oils like lavender, peppermint, citrus, or rosemary, you're not influencing just your mood and your neural circuits, but also your stress processing, your cognitive state, and your hormones at the same time. And there's also a physiological effect. Essential oils can shift that nervous system balance, moving the body from this chronic state of sympathetic activation or overactivation, which won't allow the body to heal if someone's chronically stressed, and into this restoration mode, which will allow all of the systems to work together more interconnectedly and in a healing way. And all of this matters because when your nervous system shifts, you see downstream effects, right? On your digestion, your hormone signaling, your heart rate variability, and your inflammatory tone. So I view essential oils from a holistic, multi-layered aspect that really is in alignment with the functional and medicine and naturopathic philosophies to treat the whole person and to address the underlying causes. Because for a lot of people, stress, emotional regulation, heart rate variability, and being able to stay in the state of restoration is some of the root causes of why they aren't getting better. And at the same time, they can also support relationships because when your body is out of that fight and flight system and your heart is in more coherence, essential oils can actually be used to help you get to that state and you have better reactions and behavioral patterns, whereas otherwise you might have been reactive and caused some issues in relationships. So if I simplify this a little bit, we want to think about symptoms as not just related to the organ. It's usually a combination of things such as stress physiology, metabolic balance, sleep disruption, gut function, nervous system load, all of these factors interacting at once, even when the foundations of health are in place. But with a good health history, with paying attention to one's own body and learning about the body's responses and triggers, patterns for that person will become clearer. And come to realize how our body responds to all of these different stimuli, and that there's no one thing that is really acting in isolation, that all of these seemingly unconnected symptoms actually could be coming down to some very interconnected and underlying triggers that can help, once addressed, the whole body and brain feel better. And we also have to remember individuality, because different inputs for different people are going to have different results. So just because someone has the quote unquote perfect diet, it might not be the quote unquote perfect diet or perfect movement for them. So the goal isn't about adding more and more interventions. We actually want to stop and look at what we're doing and why we're not getting the results we want, even if we feel like we're doing everything right. We want to look at addressing root causes, looking at the interconnections between the foundations of health, using personalized approaches, and digging in deeper into some physiological, psychological, or relationship imbalances that can keep our system and our nervous system in a state of chronic stress and not lead to restoration and repair and rejuvenation. So, that was a lot all at once. And if you would like to go deeper and even get some more information on this topic, I have an in-depth article that goes with this video with additional references and insights and explanations. And you can access that at the link in the video description. I also offer additional resources on brain health essential oils and naturopathic and functional medicine tips on my website, as well as in my newsletters. And if you're ready for more structured support, stay tuned, because I have a brain health reset program where we're going to dive into all these topics in depth and offer a group more insightful as well as more personalized approaches to their brain health. And I'm going to be joined by a world-renowned clinical aromatherapist. So be sure to subscribe, be sure to like this video, and click the link to stay connected through my newsletter. Your support truly means more than you know. It gets more eyes on these videos and more people empowered about their health, and it helps support this channel and free content so that I can continue to deliver it to you. Thanks for being with me here today, and I will see you in the next video.